If I asked you to say the first word that comes to mind when I say theme park, what would it be? Universal? Disney? Roller coasters? All fine answers, but you're wrong. The real answer? Billboards. Growing up in the Orlando area in the early 2000s, I was lucky enough to visit Disney and Universal when we wanted to, basically any time. This was also back when a single day Disney ticket cost less than what Fun Spot's charging now. Even though we lived just an hour away, the drive felt so much longer. Not because of distance though, but because of excitement. As a kid, I didn't know where or what road we were on, but I did know one thing. We were getting close, and that was because of the billboards. Towering, 3D, glowing, and themed to perfection. Now I'm an adult, driving down those same roads, 528, I-4, and those iconic billboards, gone. With Epic Universe officially open as well, I'm just scratching my head wondering, where did they all go? They've been replaced by generic, lifeless rectangles. Themed advertisement is dying, and with it, a piece of theme park magic. A sad example of how modern day theme parks have given up the very things that have made them so special in the first place. What's up guys, Good Drift Warner here, also known as Richard Manzo, and today we are going to be discussing the death of theme park billboards and the rise and fall of theming. Now, before we even get into the many examples of themed billboards and how they have changed over the years, we first have to ask, what is the point of a billboard in the first place? Seems obvious, right? To advertise. But more than that, they're about building anticipation. Think of Buc-ee's. You'll be in the middle of nowhere and suddenly, boom! There's a beaver who looks more like an otter bragging about how immaculate his toilets are. You won't just see one billboard either, you'll see like 50 of them. Then I'll just casually drop that the place is like a state or two away. It works because you can't escape it. Theme parks understood this, and in the early days, it built anticipation. You might not be sure what lies ahead, but you know it's damn good enough to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in advertising. Now this takes us back to the first park that started it all. When Magic Kingdom opened in 1971, Disney placed billboards hours away from Disney World, along the Florida Turnpike. They were simple silhouette cutouts of Mickey, Goofy, and Donald, paired with a local radio station that would give information, basically just hype the park tourists. They weren't flashy, but they worked. Disney was the emperor of Central Florida tourism after all. For nearly 2 decades, Disney had no serious competition. Well, except SeaWorld, but let's be honest, it wasn't even close back then. Disney was the king with no competition. That was until the year of 1990, with the opening of what would become their greatest rival, Universal Studios. Now everybody knows these are the two giants in the theme park industry, so no need to get into the history of that. What we're focusing on today is the marketing strategies Universal implemented to go after Disney's throat. They were coming on their turf after all, and even opening a similar movie studio-based theme park only months after Disney opened Hollywood Studios, or at the time MGM Studios. So they had to make it count, and boy did they. With Universal being located north of Disney, Universal bought dozens of billboard advertising space along I-4 and 528, the gateways from the airport and the coast. If you're driving from the east coast of Florida towards Disney, you have to pass through I-4, which means you'd have to see their impressively large displays. Same with 528, which is right off the airport, so even tourists in taxis, rental cars, buses would be spotting these giant behemoths. Now, even though I didn't witness any of these as a kid, these are without a doubt some of my favorite billboards ever made, and they're cool for so many reasons and have stood the test of time. Some of them include the one for the E.T. ride, which honestly is kinda creepy. I don't like the way he's looking at me. His finger even glowed, and I don't know, something about it's kind of, ooh, it's weird, you know, it's cool, but I mean, come on, it's just impressive. Then he had Ghostbusters, which advertised the Ghostbusters stage show. It also had 3D cutouts of the Ghostbusters, you know, fighting the slime guy and all that. Similar ones for Earthquake with the catchy phrase, "Survive it." Come on, this badass Terminator billboard featured Arnold holding a 3D and shiny T-800 skull with glowing red eyes. I mean, come on, like it doesn't get cooler than that. Okay, maybe it does, because this last one, it is a giant King Kong sign that pops out and holds the tram vehicles and shakes them, and just look at how crazy and awesome he looks. These weren't just signs. They were sculptures, art, warnings, Disney had the reputation as that safe and kiddie park. Universal, on the other hand, whoa, no, they were known as the thrilling and edgy park. This isn't your grandfather's theme park, no. They had properties like Jaws, King Kong, Twister. They were essentially threatening guests with a good time. Now, it's hard to say who exactly started the trend or the war on 3D billboards first. The earliest I've been able to find have been these Universal Studios billboards. SeaWorld also joined in on the action in 1989 with these Walrus and Shamu 3D billboards, which are really impressive. It seems as though Universal started the trend, but without a doubt, it's clear they were trying to dethrone the mouse by luring tourists off the tourist trap trail and into their park. But it didn't end there. It was Disney's response to the usurper and Universal that ushered us into the golden era of the 3D billboard wars. Disney could not let Universal dominate the skyline, so in 1994 they debuted what may be the most iconic theme park billboard to enter the theme park capital of the world. I am of course talking about the Tower of Terror sign that sat in the middle of World Drive outside Hollywood Studios. It coincided with the opening of the ride that same year. The sign itself immediately stood out from the rest. A tall, vertical replica of the Hollywood Tower featured an elevator car full of terrified people. The cable car actually shook back and forth as you drove by. This one in particular is so nostalgic for me. I just remember my family and my dad, my sisters, us all coming up with different names for the people inside the elevator, and every time we would drive by them, we'd always say, "Hey, how you doing, Fred?" It was Eisner-era Disney at its peak. Not too long after, Disney would also open Animal Kingdom, and with it, another 3D billboard. This one featuring a fully sculpted flick from A Bug's Life advertising the Tough to Be a Bug show. And let me tell you, it is tough to be a bug. And a couple years after that, Disney would open Mission Space in Epcot and released another billboard, the cutout of an upside-down shuttle with passengers screaming through the windows soared high in the sky in the monorails. This showed that Disney wasn't just competing with Universal, but trying to assert their dominance. This back and forth war between the two companies would continue through the early 2000s, reaching its fever pitch with perhaps the last of its kind, a very iconic billboard if you happen to visit the parks around 2010, the glowing Harry Potter wand billboard. This thing was so cool. The end of it lit up super bright at night. You could see it from a mile away. Since then, though, themed billboards have slowly disappeared. We still have a couple remaining remnants from a bygone era, such as the Smuggler's Run Millennium Falcon sign and the Tron Light Cycle Run sign. They're both very cool in their own right, but with the death of the Tower of Terror sign in 2022, it truly marked the end of a nostalgic era. Instead, we're now stuck with these soulless billboard designs following a cookie-cutter template. It's literally just taking a recognizable character, shoving them to one side of the screen, and adding an unfunny quote on the other. They're literally everywhere. This one in particular, I don't know why, but ride with Remy. Not only that, but the amount of billboards have also dwindled. Both companies have also adopted the modern billboard design trends, the kind that like shuffle like a deck of cards so you can never actually see the one you want in time. Something seems less magical about going from Expedition Everest or Hagrid's motorbike ride and then to a Morgan & Morgan ad. Disney also owns a huge digital billboard on an international drive. I call it the mini Times Square of Orlando, and to be honest, the location's kind of fitting. It is pretty cool, I'll admit, but again, something is lacking. It's just too easy to slap a giant LCD screen on the side of a building and call it a day. So why did all these beautiful 3D works of art stop? Now there's no definitive answer, but here's a couple of possibilities that I've come up with as to why. Number one, obviously being cost and maintenance. There's no doubt hiring an artist to hand sculpt a bust of King Kong or the Yeti is more expensive than hiring a graphics design artist to open up Photoshop and make like 100 of the same sign in an hour and call it a day. The upkeep was also surely an issue. You'd either have to pay someone to refurb them every couple of months, fix any moving parts or lights like the Tower of Terror sign, or just let it rot like they did with the tower. The car didn't move for most of its final years of service, it just stood there. Also, considering Florida's heat and humidity, this speeds up the decaying process even more. Speed limits. Another key factor in determining the effectiveness of a billboard is how long someone is actually going to get to see it clearly while driving by. The speed limits on all major highways in Orlando have increased by 15 to 20 miles over the last 30 years. If you were driving from 45 to 55 miles per hour down the road, you'd see a billboard for about 10 to 12 seconds. With speeds now reaching 60 to 70 miles per hour on major interstates, this reduces the window of visibility by half that, between 4 and 6 seconds. Yeah, not a lot of time to appreciate Jaws ripping a tourist in half. Social media. Since the 2010s, everyone has had a smartphone in their pocket. Between Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Universal and Disney have prioritized a much heavier social media presence as most people are scrolling on TikTok while sitting on the toilet. You're probably even watching this video on the toilet right now. Reduction of physical marketing. In 1991, there were approximately 450,000 billboard units on US highways. By 2023, that number had declined to about 354,500 billboards. So since the early 90s, the US has seen a reduction of roughly 95,000 billboards, which amounts to about a 21% decrease, and that should not come as a surprise. Physical marketing and media in general has been dying for years. Brand recognition. Maybe Disney and Universal just feel like they've become so big and popular that they don't even need to put the effort in anymore. I mean, why bother sculpting a giant volcano into a sign when Orlando has become the most visited city in America? I mean, come on, you're gonna have 30, 40, 50, 60, up to 100 or past the Lego age limit coming into your park regardless whether you charge $300 a day or $600. Minimalism. And finally, perhaps the worst word to ever be muttered by some evil CEO, minimalism has truly been the death of 3D billboards. Remember how McDonald's used to be colorful and fun, have clowns, Grimace, right? Yeah, and now they look like a North Korean prison camp. Say thanks to minimalism. This is also why Epcot took 5 years to go from having unique character and charm to looking like an Apple Store to Starbucks. Disney in particular has not just drunk the Kool-Aid, they are full on bathing in it. So many of the resorts and properties have become as soulless as their billboards, much like how many other chains or companies have removed what made them special. Disney and Universal want to create and maintain a homogeneous brand across all their parks. It's like when you travel out of town and you want something good to eat, but you don't want to risk getting food poisoning by mom and pop, so you decide to go to the Outback Steakhouse. When visiting the parks, the vacation and immersion used to start on the highway. Now, it sadly starts on your phone. When I see those road signs for Epic Universe, I just can't help but think, what if that park opened 15 years ago? I'd see Frankenstein's castle sparkling and glowing off of I-4, or see Toothless flying above and shooting his plasma breath at tourists below. So, is this truly the end of highly themed 3D theme park billboards? Well, it's hard to say. Maybe we'll have the option in 20 years to put on a filter so we can see 3D billboards again when Disney requires Apple glasses to enter the park, and your head will explode if you enter Universal without having Neuralink. There is a shining light, however. When I visited LA last year, it was around the premiere of Godzilla x Kong New Empire, and through the terrible traffic, I did see one glimmering last bit of hope. This. Seeing this billboard nearly brought me to tears. Okay, not really. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool, and I took a picture of it. But the point is, I'm not sure who designed it, but it literally sent me back to my dad's GMC van in the early 2000s watching SpongeBob on the VHS set and covered in my Barney blanket, looking out the window and seeing the bright characters that greeted me on the way to our destination. Now, I also just want to clarify, I'm not saying theme parks are dead. Of course not. Literally quite the opposite. Universal absolutely crushed it with Epic Universe. Monsters Unchained alone is one of the best themed rides ever built, and my personal favorite dark ride next to Spider-Man. Again, I'm not saying theme parks are dead, and I know that a 24-year-old man complaining about the lack of Shrek-themed billboards sounds ridiculous, but it's deeper than that. Billboards, though boring for nearly every other use, stood as something else in Orlando. It was a promise, a guarantee that you were about to have the most intense sunburns of your life while paying $14 for a rodent-shaped pretzel. Now they stand for greed, corporate minimalism, and a lack of creativity. But thank you guys so much for watching though. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Give it a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Also guys, click that. Also, please tell me down below, are there any billboards I missed, or ones that I left out, or ones that you remembered from your childhood? This was a surprisingly hard topic to research, to find actual good videos. I took my own videos. I tried to look through old videos and pictures of mine. So if there's any honorable mentions that you have, please link or leave them below. Also, if you guys want to see more of this kind of content, please subscribe and please let me know. But thank you guys so much for watching again, and Gojira 5400, as always, out.